So we are live. I want to welcome all of our participants and our panel members. My name is Vanessa Baca. I am the manager for the Office of Neighborhood Coordination, and I will start by introducing our panelists. Cynthia, go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Cynthia Severa. I'm the president of the Mile High Neighborhood Association, which is near the Uptown area in Expo, New Mexico. And also we're one of 4 neighborhood associations that are part of the San Pedro Corridor Revitalization Coalition.
Great, thank you for being with us. Gary? Gary, are you there? And we'll come back to Gary. Gary Eister is with the Nob Hill Neighborhood Association. Luis, we'll go to you.
Good morning. My name is Luis Hernandez. I'm the executive director here at the West Central Community Development Group. Also the president for SWAN, which is the Southwest Alliance of Neighborhood Associations here on the Southwest Corridor. And even an entrepreneur, a small business owner here in the area as well.
Yes, thank you very much for being part of this, Luis. We're really grateful. And Melissa, last but definitely not least.
Thank you. I'm Melissa Sanchez, and I am the executive director for the Albuquerque Westside Business Association. I'm also a business owner, and I do currently contract with the city of Albuquerque, doing some economic development projects here on the west side.
Great. I'm really glad you could be with us. And there's Gary. Gary, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us your, okay, great.
Thanks, Vanessa.
Thank you.
Hi, Gary Eister. I had to go get my Nob Hill hat.
Gotta do some strategic product placement there, of course.
Yeah,
that's
right.
That's very important.
We promote our community identity, our sense of place, our esprit in Nob Hill.
That's great.
And we have an enviable position for a neighborhood. I wish every neighborhood were developed around a small historic commercial district.
Yeah, I know.
Because that's a huge resource for us. It really enhances our quality of life to take off in the morning for our coffee or fresh bread, or in the afternoon for a brew at the tap room or a gourmet meal. So
yeah.
We enjoy a wonderful relationship with our commercial partners. And of course, we encourage commercial business owners and landlords to join our association as well.
Yeah, and that's great. That's a good segue. That's the main reason I wanted to have the 4 of you be on this panel. I wanted people with a variety of backgrounds, people who are actively engaged with their neighborhood association, like Gary and Cynthia are, people like Luis, who works with a nonprofit, but that is very engaged in working with both local businesses and neighborhood associations. And then Melissa, working not necessarily in the neighborhood side, but you definitely have the outreach to the neighborhoods, but you work specifically with businesses as well. And you're from different areas along, within Albuquerque, not just the Central Avenue corridor, which I think is important to remember, because although I think majority of us tend to think of Central as being a very major business hub, there are other areas like the Mile High area, Cynthia, that I'll have you talk about, the McMahon and Sur corridor that you work with, Melissa, and then the area that you work with, Luis, as well. So we'll go ahead and jump into this discussion of how neighborhood associations and local businesses can partner. So the first question I'm going to ask, and we'll start with Luis actually, and we can just go around and you guys can answer as you'd like. What are the benefits of a neighborhood association working with businesses in their areas? And how can a smaller neighborhood actively reach out to both small and large businesses in their area and implement partnerships?
Yeah, that's a great question. In fact, really drills down to our why. We start with our why. Why are we involved in our neighborhood association to begin with, right? And I think that for everybody that's on the call, the underlying reason is because we want to make our neighborhood, we want to make our area, our city, a better place for us all to live, work, and play. And so this is right alongside that of us really, coordinating efforts within our neighborhood to bring everybody to the table with the same mission in mind, and that is to develop relationships so that we can work collectively to make our area, just a little bit better than what it is today, or to provide resources and opportunities, right? And so I think that that it's key, for neighborhood associations to really engage with the businesses in their area. And I do want to make a point. I like to call it. There's 3 different businesses in your area, right? If we talk with Gary, right, he's got an abundance of businesses, right? But there may be neighborhood associations that are not, that close to the business district, right? And so one of the ways to look at it is what businesses are within our boundaries, right? What brick and mortar businesses are within our boundaries, right? The second one is let's look at the people that are in our neighborhood. Are they business owners, right? Those are other businesses that we can connect with. And then third is that just about everybody in our neighborhood has a job and works somewhere, right? And so that's the third type of business that you can engage with from the employee standpoint and participation in your neighborhood association. So there are plenty of opportunities for you to be able to connect, at multiple levels with the business community.
Mm-hmm. Cynthia, what has been your experience in reaching out actively to try and work with businesses in your area, and how has it benefited your neighborhood association?
Well, thanks for that question. Actually, Mile High is a relatively small neighborhood, and our neighborhood dates back to the early 1950s, and it was actually the Mile High development was really touted as kind of a progressive and innovative community with opportunities for young families to actually establish businesses that serve the community. We've moved a little bit away from that, but I would say in our neighborhood, we do have several other neighborhoods in the same Mile High district that we branded a few years ago. Mm-hmm. Most of the businesses are small businesses, with the exception of a Smith's grocery store and maybe the Rio Grande Credit Union. Mm-hmm. I would say probably the biggest benefit to working with the businesses over the years has been creating a greater sense of community, and that encompasses the business community as well as the residential neighborhoods. And that kind of leads to a tendency to really care more about the community. Mm-hmm. And the well-being, the appearance, safety issues, working together for the benefit of both the businesses and the residents. So I would definitely say over the years it has created a greater sense of community. I'm not a business owner myself, but we do, mm-hmm. Referring to what Luis was saying, we do have a number of business owners in the neighborhood, and some of them mm-hmm. do own some of the local businesses there that serve the neighborhood itself. One of the other benefits, I would say, is that it's created potential partnerships when opportunities arise for us to try to move forward with improvements, apply for grants, and other developments that might benefit the community overall. One example is that the partnerships with the business community have really supported the farmers market in Alvarado Park now, and it's 7th year. So that's one example. And I know we're going to talk about this later, but also one of the other opportunities has been partnering with local businesses to move forward towards Main Street designation.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Main Street here in a bit, but no, that's an important topic to cover as well. Gary, in terms of the Nob Hill Neighborhood Association, you talked already about the benefits that are already kind of inherent in partnering with them. My question to you is a little bit different. How has it worked out with your neighborhood association in terms of working with not just local businesses, but with larger, maybe kind of chain types of businesses? Like Staples, and I understand Urban Outfitters is along in the Nob Hill area. Does the Nob Hill Neighborhood Association work with those businesses in addition to the smaller local ones?
Well, both of those folded.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm a little behind the times, I guess. I've been inside for the past 15 months. I haven't gone anywhere.
um, well, you wanted to hold off on Main Street a little bit, but
Okay.
and I will. But Main Street is basically the successor to a merchants association.
Mhm,
Nob Hill had a Nob Hill Merchants Association for many, many years,
mhm.
and that's now been supplanted by Main Street. So Main Street is our conduit to the business community.
I see.
And I might add to the landlord community,
Mhm,
because honestly, landlords would be wonderful to link up with.
mhm,
We've not been very successful
mhm.
in that. One of the tough things about a business or a landlord is that they're always busy with their business, and they don't have a lot of idea to sit around, a lot of time to shoot the bull with the local guy from the neighborhood. So one thing about a business or a landlord is you got to get right down to it. And you got to have an ask, or you got to have some kind of an idea and go in with it.
Yeah.
And probably our main liaison to our community and to the business community is a newsletter that we do twice a year.
Mhm.
And we sell ads in that newsletter. And most of them are Nob Hill area businesses.
Mhm.
Some of them are in the neighboring parts of town.
Sure.
So we print 3,600 of those, and we take 3,000 around to every neighbor, every house and business.
Mhm.
And then we keep 600 to take around to businesses to distribute.
Yeah.
And so every business, you know, they get one of those, and they look in there and they learn about the neighborhood association and
Mhm.
about its work. And they see those ads and they say, oh, I think I'll buy an ad. And that's really how we finance our work. You know, we charge $10 dues, and you know, with 100 members, that's not a lot of income.
Sure.
So our real money comes from that, and it's just so much more than the money. It's also the contact
Mhm.
with the business community, with the landlord community, and it's a way that we communicate with the residential neighbors.
No, that seems like a really smart way to do it. Just a quick question for both Cynthia and Gary before we move on to Melissa. Do you have membership tiers in your bylaws for actual businesses? Because I know a lot of bylaws have different types of memberships, one for individuals or households, and then one's for businesses. And I was just wondering if you had that in place and if it's been effective.
Cynthia, would you like that first?
Yeah, we actually do have tiers for membership.
Right.
We have individual, household, and business membership tiers. I wouldn't say that the business memberships have been utilized a whole lot. But that being said, that doesn't really keep us from engaging with them. And
Sure.
you know, similar to Gary, we do have a newsletter that we put out 3 times a year. Not as fancy as Nob Hills, but we do distribute those to the businesses, and they do have opportunities to advertise as well, paid advertising in there.
That's great. That's great.
When you say tiers of membership, is that spelled TEARS?
You would think, huh?
Sometimes.
Sometimes it is. Oh, I think we all can relate to that. Melissa,
Yeah.
from the business side, what has been your experience in working successfully with neighborhood associations, and what are some techniques that you can suggest for businesses to utilize to more actively reach out if they wanted to work with a neighborhood association?
Yeah, no, so that's a great question. And just recently I started working with the neighborhood associations, and I had a really great meeting with the West Side Coalition of Neighborhoods. We had a great brainstorming meeting, and from that led to me speaking at individual neighborhood associations. And so we have a lot of great ideas that we're coming up with. And of course, the advertising part is one of the things, the business membership tier for neighborhood associations. And Vanessa, when you sent me over that map, so we're trying to kind of map out which businesses belong to the association and try to connect the neighborhood board members, neighborhood association board members with those businesses, because they do want to have that connection with them. And so just in speaking with that, we're working on, anytime that, of course, here on the West Side, everything is growing. And so we have a lot of new businesses, coming up, and anytime a new business pops up, then I, let the association know, hey, this is a new business, welcome your new neighbor. So it's been great. It's been great to be able to work with neighborhood associations, so I can connect the businesses to the people in the neighborhoods that they serve. Whereas, I come from the business background where we did a lot of business to business networking. And so in forming this new organization, I really wanted to work with the neighborhoods.
Yeah, it kind of shifts the focus a little bit, doesn't it? Working with neighborhood groups as opposed to businesses. Luis, I wanted to ask you, what are some specific ways that a neighborhood association group can reach out to businesses in their area? Like what in your opinion would be an effective way for a business association to go to a business and say, would you like to partner, and what are the benefits that both sides can get from that partnership?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that everybody's, touched on that, the benefit side, for the businesses as well as the constituents in the area. At the end of the day, you got to think of it in these terms, right? The business owner, right? The business owner is always looking for a customer, right? And the neighborhood association is always looking for resources to further their cause, right? And so each one of us has something to bring to the table, right? And I like the way that Gary said, when you're dealing with business owners, you've got to be on point, and you've got to deliver your message in a way that is quick, concise, and has a call to action, right? I like to think of it just a little bit differently, right? In the approach of, let me come to support you with what your needs are, and build a partnership in that way, right? And that works on both sides, right? Neighborhood associations, Gary, you've got a list of over 3,600 households, which is something powerful for your area businesses, right? They without you would otherwise have to look to other means to advertise their business. Now, you are helping them advertise their business to the people that are most likely to support or patronize that business because they are in the area, right? So you can see those patterns happening, those connection points, right? Of those businesses being able to connect with the people in the neighborhoods that they serve, right? And on the flip side, for the neighborhood associations to be able to connect with those businesses, right? So that they can begin to support some of the work that the neighborhood association does, whether it be, in the cleanups of the neighborhood, or if it's, supporting one of the area schools or the little leagues. This is where that synergy comes into play. And when the relationship is established and the relationship is built, that synergy happens naturally. And Gary, I'm sure, Cynthia, I'm sure you can attest to this, is that when you've had the opportunity to work with those businesses, it goes a lot further when you have that established relationship with the business, right? And so, I think some of the tactics, some of the ways that we can do that are very simple, right? The way of the newsletter is one of the easiest things that we can do as a neighborhood association. If you have a newsletter, if you don't, then maybe it's time for you to create one. But that's really the best way to do that. You're reaching your constituents, your neighbors, right? And you're also providing opportunity to those businesses. You may want to start to invite those businesses to your neighborhood association meetings, right? And yes, of course, you know, we do know, understand that they're busy. They're busy running their businesses, but it's certainly a good opportunity for them to network and be able to meet their customers face to face in a non-retail type of environment. You know, and provide them opportunity to build or establish connection or relationships, if you will. I mean, there are so many different things. You know, I was thinking about it this morning, and my mind was going 500 miles an hour, and I literally dropped about, you know, 632 different ways for neighborhood associations to connect with businesses.
Well, tell us, this is your opportunity. Come on, Luis.
At the end of the day, it's easier to keep it simple, and all you got to think of is network and build relationships. If you keep those two things in your pocket at all times, and understand that when you're going into a business, you're not going into a business to ask them for support. You're going in there to network with them and to build a relationship, a mutually beneficial relationship where you are supporting each other. And it's not one-sided where I need you to help me and I have nothing to give you in return, right? Because we know that that's not the case, right?
Yeah,
and so, you know, just always think in those terms of network and build relationships.
for sure.
Vanessa, can you pick up on that for just a minute?
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time?
Can I pick up on that for just a moment?
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah, I really want to second that idea of including the businesses in your neighborhood association meetings. But most importantly, it is about relationships and not just working on those relationships when you need something from the businesses or vice versa. So,
Agreed.
You know, the most important kind of outreach is just maybe patronizing the businesses, letting them know that you're part of the neighborhood association and that's one of the reasons you're there. I do try to pay a visit to say hello to new businesses when they open in the neighborhood. And I think that's really important to let them know there is a neighborhood association that they can reach out to and that we're here to support them. We have a Facebook page also, and we do try to follow the businesses' Facebook pages and encourage them to do the same, because it's really an opportunity for us to like promote when they have sales or special events going on.
Absolutely.
And
It's a two-way street.
Yeah.
It's like any kind of relationship, really. Yeah.
Exactly. But I really wanted to especially make a note that building relationships is, you know, making your face seen and letting them know that you're there to support them, even when you don't need something immediately from them.
Sure. Another thing that I've experienced with some businesses, and Melissa, you and I had done or worked together on an event a few months back, was encouraging neighborhood associations to have possibly utilized these smaller local businesses as a venue for their neighborhood meetings. And I was wondering if you could give us a little bit of some thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's one of the things that we had talked about when I talked with the West Side Coalition of Neighborhood, definitely utilizing these businesses for the meetings. You know, again, it just goes back to what everyone has been saying about building that relationship. It really puts money back into our local economy here, into the neighborhoods. And so I think that's a really great way to connect with your neighborhoods. I know, you know, now that we're getting ready to open back up, we can have those gatherings over the past year and however many months everything's been virtual. And now is a great time because everyone is just itching to get out and to be in those settings. So this is a great time to start planning out meetings in your local area businesses.
It's true. We're going green tomorrow, from what I understand. I'm wearing my green shirt in anticipation. So, Gary, has the Nob Hill Neighborhood Association done that? Have they ever utilized any of the local businesses to host neighborhood meetings as part of that, you know, partnering or, you know, establishing those connections?
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Good. Yeah. Yep. So that's one really good. That's one good and very specific way for neighborhoods to actively reach out and partner with a business. So that's terrific.
Before the pandemic, we
Uh-huh.
would have about 4 or 5 events a year where you'd have food and a cash bar.
Okay.
We weren't putting neighborhood money into alcohol, but the people who wanted it could buy it. We were putting it into food.
Mhm.
And then, you'd have a discussion / speaker on one particular topic.
Okay.
And we would generally have those at a local, kind of like a banquet room or a restaurant that has a room in the back or something like that. We also have about 5 churches in Nob Hill.
Mhm.
And one of them has stepped up really to, Monte Vista Christian Church has stepped up to really make their facilities available to us.
That's great.
And so we're in contact with all the churches in Nob Hill and
Yeah.
try to look for ways to work together.
That's another important point to remember if you're a neighborhood who's looking to do more outreach. You don't just, I forget this myself. If we don't just have businesses, we have churches, we have schools. There are so many other organizations that we can reach out to as partners. So that's another really good thing to remember. Cynthia, I'm going to segue back to you. You had mentioned neighborhood safety, and I wanted to ask, what has been your experience in partnering with businesses, and then I'll expand it to everybody else. But in terms of specifically addressing neighborhood safety, what has your experience been?
Sure. Well, from a neighborhood association perspective, we do try to keep an eye on safety issues and kind of crime trends within the neighborhood that might affect or be affected by activity around the business corridor. And obviously proactively make police reports when it's appropriate and reach out to the businesses to see how we can help. In our area, there are alleyways that are immediately behind the commercial corridor on both the east and west side of San Pedro, and those alleyways separate the businesses from the residential area. So one of the things that's a concern is that those alleys have experienced kind of an uptick in vagrancy and illegal dumping and some other illegal activity that's posed some significant safety issues over the past couple of years. I will say on the kind of downside, getting some of the businesses to engage and work with us to find solutions can be frustrating. And sometimes that's because the actual folks that are running the businesses aren't the owners. The property owners. And I think that's pretty common, not just in our area, but in other areas of the city. And that can also lead to really inconsistent maintenance of the properties and also leads to some safety issues. So, one potential solution that we're exploring right now that I want to mention is working with the city and APD to have them reach out to businesses to try to form a business coalition to specifically address public safety and crime issues, totally separate from the neighborhood association. And I believe this has been done successfully further north of us in the Montgomery corridor, and we're trying to replicate their experience, which sounds like it's been pretty successful in our area. So I'll keep you posted on how that goes. But
well, and you just gave me an idea for a future lunch and learn panel. So thank you for that.
Well, I mean, definitely in our one-on-one conversations with business owners, they share the same high priority concern about safety and crime that we do as residents. But, just being able to work together, because we don't have a merchants association, we wish we did. And that is a goal down the road. Hopefully one of the potential solutions is this kind of business alliance to really focus on crime that's led by APD in the city. So we'll see how that.
That's great. Luis, I know that the West Central WCCDG group has done some real active stuff in terms of reaching out to APD and working with them. What has been your experience in utilizing that connection to try and address safety with the businesses, but also with the residents in your area?
Absolutely. Another great question is utilizing the resources that we have, at our fingertips, right? And so really that's could be another panel discussion, Vanessa, is how to navigate the city resources, right? Really at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to is really understanding, who to reach out to in certain situations. But at the end of the day, again, we're going to go right back to relationships, right? And pre-pandemic, we were organizing monthly meetings at local restaurants where we would engage with APD and have APD join us at these meetings along with several of the merchants in the area. It was a communication tool to talk about, what some of the safety concerns in the area were, to even talk about some of the trends that were happening along the West Central Corridor, all the way down to who specifically, might be causing problems that may have become recognizable. And it was a group effort in terms of how they would address the issues and the challenges, and that's where the resources were shared. If ABC happened, then you needed to contact this department along with this department to handle the situation. And so, really, I think that it's about having those resources and the relationships. Right now, I can tell you this about APD is that they are eager to participate, in the neighborhood associations. They're eager to participate in the community policing model, which puts them what I like to call is right on Front Street, right? And engaging in the community, engaging not only with constituents, but also with the business owners, right? And really, they too need to be pulled into the fold because they too, want to participate at that level, and they want to develop those relationships as well. And so I think that when you have that kind of outreach, it really does build a stronger community. And something funny happens when you have APD at the table. You get a lot more buy-in from the business community, as well as more participation from constituents in the neighborhood.
That's a very good point. That's something else to remember. That's another good partnership, connecting businesses, neighborhoods, and APD. Very important to remember. Melissa, from the business aspect, what has been your experience in working with trying to connect businesses and neighborhoods from a public safety aspect? Have you had any experience in working with the Northwest Area Command or any of the police officers in that area in terms of addressing neighborhood safety?
Sorry, my screen froze up for a minute. I like what you just said.
Oh, that's okay. I was saying, from your perspective in working with businesses, what has been your experience in terms of connecting neighborhoods and businesses to deal with neighborhood safety issues? And have you had any success in bringing APD to the table in those partnerships as well?
Absolutely, yes. So, perfect timing, because after I get done with here, I am going to meet with one of the counselors to address that exact issue. And it's been an ongoing partnership that I've had with the Northwest Area Command. And so we've done these business coalition meetings, in the past, and then of course the pandemic hit, so that kind of shut everything down. But now that things are opening up, they did reach out to me and wanted my help in outreach to the businesses to start these meetings again. And of course the businesses, they also have concern in just going back to, a lot of the business people are not the actual property owners. So it's having to navigate and find out who those property owners are to get them connected and get them involved. So we have, the Northwest Area Command is the largest command, station. And so it's a lot of work for them. So, I'm grateful that they did reach out to me to work on this partnership, because, we see a lot of things going on, a lot of things that have an impact to business. And we, of course, want our neighborhood associations to also be included and involved in those upcoming meetings. But we will definitely be having meetings with the business community.
That's great. That's a terrific thing to remember as well for businesses. This is something that I've heard that some businesses have done, and I was wondering if Gary, you might have had any experience with this, or at least heard of this, as having the officers have some of their briefings at some of the local businesses and engaging some of the neighbors as well, similar to what a lot of businesses do with Coffee with a Cop. And I was wondering if Nob Hill had been able to utilize any of those methods to deal with any of the neighborhood safety issues.
Well, we have had Coffee with a Cop, yes. And the turnout for those is usually pretty huge.
Yep.
And you see both business members and commercial landlords and residential neighbors, so that's a nice time people can get together. I like what the panel has done here about exploring the mutual interests, mutual goals. And certainly one of those is public safety.
Yep.
That's a monster. And it's a great place for us to work together. It's probably the place where we've worked together the most with our merchants.
Yeah.
One interesting question that comes up, though, is that we've also had times when our objectives ran at cross purposes. And one of those is in zoning updates when the IDO was developed and when the IDO is updated every year. Sometimes those who want to develop would like to see entitlements grow, whereas neighbors are often at odds with that. And so we have had times when we agree to disagree with the business community, and we've actually gone in with kind of, opposite positions to council. And that has happened too. And that can be tough on relationships.
Yeah.
But you want to approach those kinds of situations with extra respect, extra courtesy, so that, and just let everybody know it's not personal. It's just that we're speaking for a group of people who have given us a position, and it resonates with us. We're going to support it.
Yeah.
But we still got a lot of common interests, even though
absolutely.
we're not in agreement on this.
And that that tension between maintaining a neighborhood character versus development, the economic development aspect versus wanting to maintain your neighborhood. I mean, I can completely understand that. We get questions about that all the time. So, and I'm sure that that's something that all of our panelists, in one way or another, have had experience with as well. So it's a very good point to make, Gary. Thank you for bringing that up. And that's actually a really good segue, because now we're going to get to the exciting topic of Main Street. So Gary, I'm going to start with you, because I liked your, when we were talking before the webinar started, your explanation of how Main Street differs from an actual neighborhood association. And then I'll segue to Cynthia, because your neighborhood just finished your application to become a Main Street. So Gary, if you could give a little bit of background on what are the benefits of a neighborhood applying to become Main Street, and what have been the benefits specific to Nob Hill?
You bet. Nob Hill had a merchants association for many, many years. And about 10 years ago, it was recommended that Nob Hill should try to join the Main Street program. And I will point out, I'm interested in hearing what Cynthia has to say about the Mile High Main Street nomination, but it is a preservation-based model. It's a historic preservation-based model that's intended to rejuvenate and make sustainable historic commercial districts. And so it really is limited to our historic commercial district, the Route 66, which we now call Central, that goes right through the middle of our neighborhood. And so that effectively, that was approved and came into being. And it can really be quite strong. For one thing, Main Street gets a pretty nice grant from city of Albuquerque every year, and they use part of that for an executive director. I've often wished our neighborhood had a full-time executive director. We could use it. But Main Street has at least a half-time executive director.
Yeah.
And so that supplanted the Merchants Association. There's no Merchants Association
Okay.
anymore. And that's okay because Main Street does a good job for them.
Mhm.
And so we think of Nob Hill Main Street as our sister. And we get together when we can, and we're now looking at a post-COVID happy hour.
Great
And looking
idea.
forward to it. And one of the Main Street leaders owns the Tractor Brewery, so
Okay.
that sounds like a good synergy, doesn't it?
I think it sounds like a great idea. And any kind of
Is that-
local business with the word brewery in it, you know, just kind of makes my heart happy. So
Gary, is that, did you share that information as an open invitation?
Actually, we'd love to have you
good
guys.
networking, good networking.
Yeah, come on.
Cynthia, did you want to, can you give us some of your experience in the whole process for applying for Main Street designation, and what are the benefits you expect to get from it?
Well, I do want to clarify that the Mile High District, the San Pedro corridor between like I-40 and Central is designated as a main street on the city of Albuquerque maps. We are not a state designated main street yet. That's takes a lot of work towards that process. And we did just submit an application for assistance to New Mexico Main Street's new initiative, and that's the Urban Neighborhood Commercial Corridor initiative. And that's a step towards becoming an official designated main street. So we still have a lot of work to do before we get to that point. And our corridor and the surrounding neighborhood has been in existence for probably around 70 years or so. So a mid-century kind of style and feel to the neighborhood, and that we're hoping to kind of capitalize on as well.
Yeah.
I do see the benefits, you know, obviously being access to funding and technical assistance and greater visibility. And those things could provide you know, obviously a boost to economic development and property values and, you know, all of that. You know, on the drawback side, you know, it's, I'm trying to think in those terms. I suppose that added visibility and accountability really means that you've got to have both business owners and neighborhood leaders that are in this for the long run.
Yep.
Because there's that pressure to maintain that status and you know, to keep moving forward. And I think that's really important. You know, my experience so far with this process, which started more than a decade ago, is that becoming a main street takes a lot of work, requires a lot of patience and creativity and flexibility. One of the important things for us is that we do have a very strong multiple neighborhood coalition, and that has been critical. So besides the Mile High neighborhood, we partnered for a number of years with Alvarado Park and Mark Twain neighborhood associations. And about 4 or 5 years ago, we added the Fair West neighborhood, which is in a different council district, but also borders the corridor to the coalition. And that's been, that partnership has been critical. Because we all have different types of relationships with the businesses. It's given us a lot more visibility with key folks in the city. I'm going to put a plug in here for people to work with ONC, because you guys have really been key to helping us organize a number of forums that have included business owners over the years, and get connected with people that have answers to some of the questions that we've been asking. And the other thing that I would really plug is working very closely with the office of your city councilor. And if you're fortunate enough as we've been to have a real boots on the ground councilor and very active council staff, then you're really golden, because that makes a huge difference. I mean, they have a stake in making sure that the business corridor stays viable, and you know, economics continue to progress.
Absolutely.
And so working closely with them is super important.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the plug. I promised to our attendees I did not pay her to say that. I did not. So you were talking about the economic benefits, so that's a good segue into asking, and I'll start with Gary this time. Gary, what would you say are the revenue related benefits, other than the newsletter that you had talked about earlier, of businesses and neighborhood associations working in partnership with each other? None? No.
I'm not sure I can think of those. I need a little tickler. I mean, to me, to most Nobhileños, the biggest thing is just that synergy. Luis said it very well. The business they want your business.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to go there and consume what they're offering. It's the perfect, beautiful Adam Smith exchange of value.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest one I can think of. It increases your walk scores. It increases the quality of life.
Okay, great.
Otherwise, I mean, we talked about membership. We don't have tiers of membership, but we do charge businesses $20 a year instead of $10 a year. I don't know why. I guess it's because when that was written, people thought that the business people had a lot of money and the neighbors didn't. But
Totally not true.
I know it's not. Sometimes it's the exact opposite. We should charge the businesses only $5.
Yeah, very much so. That you should really be cutting a break to the businesses, because
if you want them to join, give them a deal. You know.
Yeah. Seriously, give
Neat
them
idea.
a good deal. And so this is my opportunity to plug something that I always plugged in my neighborhoods. If you want to involve businesses, revise your bylaws and give them a tier and tell them and specify how much they pay in dues. Just putting that out there. So
what happens with their tier, Vanessa, or their dues?
It's really, it's up to the individual neighborhood association. They can choose to have business memberships or not. Some do, some don't. It's probably not viable for every association, because if you have an association that's primarily in a residential area, you know, why would they have a tier, you know, a membership level for a business? But if you know that there are businesses within your boundaries and you want to increase your partnership and your membership, something to think about. Luis, does the West, you're not a neighborhood association, but you work extensively with them. Do any of the neighborhood associations in your area have business memberships included in their association membership?
You know, I know that they do. I don't know if they are tiered, you know, in terms of different costs. You know, we are going to revamp the West Central Merchants Association. And, you know, the model that we're looking at is not a membership, a pay-for membership-based model. It's an all-inclusive model. Which basically means that if you are a business on the West Central Corridor, and we kind of extend our arms out just a little bit and say, if you are, you know, south of I-40 and west of the Rio Grande River, that qualifies you to be part of the West Central Merchants Association. And with that, we talk about, you know, the economic impact. And like Gary said, you know, for us, as an organization, and Cynthia and Gary, you can attest to this, is with the Main Street program, we want to promote the area as a destination, you know, primarily to locals, but also to travelers, right? We talk about GRT and growing the GRT for our neighborhoods, right? You know, the idea is that those dollars go back into our neighborhoods, right? And so it's always important for us to be able to promote the businesses, and there's no better way to do that than with the people that live in the area, right? And so as a neighborhood association, I think this is, we're at a moment right now with pandemic, you know, easing up on us, of re-energizing the neighborhood associations. And I think that, during the pandemic, we saw, a lot of people have some interest in some of the things that we were doing, but we were unable to engage with them. And I think that even for those neighborhoods that are not on a major thoroughfare, that it's still an opportunity for you to get out and maybe get out into the neighborhood and find out who's in your neighborhood, right? Find out, who, because like I said, for example, I own a business that is, conducted primarily, virtually. And so, I don't have an office for my business.
Mhm.
I operate out of my home, right? but it's
Well,
still,
but you're still a business. Mhm.
still a thriving business, right?
Yep.
And so I think for the neighborhoods, it's an opportunity for them to re-engage with all the neighbors, right? And see if there's maybe some connectivity there in that way, if they might be business owners. And then again, at the very last idea there is that they work for a company, I'm sure. and I got to tell you, as a business owner, we want to be involved, right? We want to participate we want to be part of something, right? Especially the entrepreneurs, the solopreneurs, and the home-based businesses. They want to have a sense of community as well.
Yeah.
And with the neighborhood association, you're really going to provide that to them.
Mhm.
And the idea is that you guys would create that relationship, and that synergy is just rotating around, and there's magic that happens.
Mhm. Well, I
Because
mean, the
everybody's
neighborhood
involved.
association, I think we would all agree that the neighborhood association itself is sort of the grassroots, boots on the ground, organization, kind of the base organization from which all these other partnerships can expand and extend. So I think that's a good point that you make, Luis.
I'll share my
I wanna-
philosophy with you really quickly. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt,
That's
but
okay. That's okay.
my business is music promotion, right?
Mhm.
And so when I get an artist that wants to rule the world, right? I want to be on every major billboard. I want to be on every radio station and all that. And I say, the first thing that we have to do is we have to connect and own our own backyard.
Yeah.
we
I agree.
have to build our fan base in our own backyard. And it's the same thing, with business community. It's the same thing with the neighborhood associations. We have to start right here and work our way out and around.
I agree. I could not agree more. Melissa, from the business perspective and from your experience in working with the businesses along the Munster-McMahon corridor, has there been a lot of interest from the businesses themselves in actively reaching out to the neighborhoods and trying to expand those partnerships? Because we're talking a lot, I know, about the neighborhood perspective, but I'd like to also emphasize the fact that businesses are an essential part of any neighborhood. And I think what's been your experience with that?
Well, that's a really new area. So I think they're just getting developed themselves, and since that project, they built a couple of more areas, and plus they broke ground on the other corner of that corridor. So they're just kind of getting started. Not in that particular area. I do have interest from the area of Unser and Ladera. I know I just got a message from someone saying we need to promote our business membership more. So, so there's definitely that interest in getting these communities and involved with the businesses that are in their areas.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, Cynthia, what about with your association? I know you had talked about the farmers markets, some of the businesses along the San Pedro corridor. Have you had that similar experience of, kind of reaping those revenue related benefits in terms with those partnerships?
Yeah, definitely. I would say that we have several of the businesses along San Pedro that participate in the farmers market.
Yeah.
And also make donations for other events and or even restaurants that provide meeting space or refreshments for meetings, things like that. So that's all a benefit. But the one thing I was going to just note is that you know, working together with the businesses when we see improvements that can be made.
Mhm.
For example, we were able to increase street lighting in the area and post signs, branding the Mile High District and some banners. I
Mhm.
think having that partnership, you know, those things are all, we don't think of it necessarily as revenue, but it costs money to do that. And
Sure.
that means that, you know, we've working together convinced the city to make investing in those improvements a priority.
Yeah.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that. So it's not just a matter of, you know, money from like ads that, you know, you can spend.
Mhm.
It's actual improvements that cost money that you're making a priority.
Yeah.
And that's maybe even more important, I think.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I agree. I mean, revenue is important, but it's not the entire basis of a good partnership. So that's a very good reminder. And that's a good segue to the next question I wanted to ask, which is, what are the challenges that you've experienced, both from the business perspective and the neighborhood perspective, in trying to work together? And I will, since we're still with you, Cynthia, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Well, that's an interesting question. So, you know, I guess I'll start by saying that sometimes, no matter how many times you know, in good faith, try to reach out to businesses as a neighborhood association to engage them in a two-way conversation, there can be crickets.
Yeah.
And sometimes what that really means is that you need to think about, is there a better messenger to communicate with the businesses? Maybe they, you know, communicating with the neighborhood association may not be on the top of their list. They, you know, especially if you don't have a really strong personal relationship with them already. So thinking about, is there another established peer business that can communicate with them? Is it, like in the example of trying to set up a safety coalition, is it APD or the city that should, you know, make that contact? But I also want to go back to one of the things that Gary mentioned about recognizing that sometimes your perspective as a neighborhood association may not be the same as the business perspective on a project or an idea that you have. And both viewpoints, including the concerns, are valid. And so, for example, a few years ago, in our neighborhood, when we held community meetings regarding a proposed road diet along San Pedro and narrowing to one lane each way with a center lane, there were some businesses that were very vocally opposed. And that, you know, easily could have gotten very out of hand. And I think what enabled us to come out of that with an actual project was being able to maintain an open mind and listen to those concerns and try to put yourself in the shoes of the business owner and not just, you know, your perspective, so that we could really come up with some potential solutions. And it doesn't just end with that project then. It's also just really important to keep listening and keep asking for feedback and not get defensive. And it's really hard to do, but it's critical.
Yeah, I know. When we feel passionately about our neighborhoods, whether as a developer or a resident, it can be a challenge. So that's very good advice for all of us to remember. So, Gary, did you have anything that you wanted to add on to what Cynthia said in terms of challenges in working with neighborhoods and businesses?
Well, she said it well, and you did too, Vanessa, that, you know, people come out and do this community work because they feel strongly about something. If you don't feel strongly, you don't come out. It's much easier to stay home and watch TV. And so the question now is to find the areas where we all feel passion. And clear, the first one has got to be public safety. This is the easy one for communities to do together. And beyond that, I guess if a now my mother's calling me and I'm trying to think of something here. What I was thinking of was, I'm gonna turn over the floor while I think and remember
Okay.
what that was. I really liked it.
Yeah.
I hope I can get it back.
I hope so too. Luis, what in terms of working, because you're sort of in between, you're a nonprofit, you work equally with neighborhood associations and with local businesses. What has been your experience in terms of addressing challenges that come up and trying to connect these two groups?
Yeah, that's a really good question because it happens on a couple of different fronts, right? When we're talking about development, you certainly have to enter the room unbiased, right? And really work to identify the balance, because you do have people that feel strongly on both sides, either for or against, the development, and that's always a challenge. But I think that, if you can get everybody to really look at, the big picture and how those things, affect us, today, how they affect us in a year from now, in 3 years from now, and in 20 years from now.
Yeah.
And really look at what is in the best interest of not only ourselves, but those that are our future, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when you take things and you break them down to the ridiculous, and you look at the facts behind them, then it helps you to get to that balance a little quicker, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's always going to be a challenge, and so it's always good to have somebody within the neighborhood association that is even killed, if you will, that is level-headed. That can communicate well for everybody.
Yes.
That certainly is very, very helpful because when it comes to these things, the temperatures can rise pretty quickly, right?
None of us have had any experience with that,
none of that
at all,
none of that.
have we? None.
But, on the more of the day to day, Gary said it all, and I'll say it again. Business owners are busy. We just recently did some outreach here along the West Central Corridor, and we visited 98 businesses, and we were only able to engage with about half of them because a new dynamic, right, is that they are short-staffed. They don't have the normal staff that they are accustomed to pre-COVID. Folks are not coming back to work, and so the owner or the general manager running the business, oftentimes was by themselves, and they didn't have time to even say hi. Really, what are you doing here? And so, so those things, right? And so I want to bring that up because that is an area where we might want to be patient with the business owner or business operator because they're facing that current challenge. And so if you're in a position where you need something, immediately, your chances of going and collecting dollars from the neighborhood might be easier than getting resources from some of these businesses right now. But just understand that if you continually show up, right, like Cynthia said, you continually show up and you patronize their business and you let them know, hey, I am from the neighborhood and I am here spending my dollars with you, and I'm encouraging my neighbors to do the same thing as well. And if they see that, then they're going to be more open to engaging with you, in terms of partnerships and things like that. So I say that to just, that is a challenge, and it can be pretty deflating when all you hear all day is no. But if you just toughen up a little bit and just know that it's not you, it's just a current situation. But just keep at it, right? And be consistent.
Yeah.
And that will alleviate that challenge for you.
That's very good advice, Luis. I appreciate you saying that. Gary, did you get your brilliant idea back?
Yeah, with Luis's help, it came back to me.
Oh, Luis,
and it was
that's so great.
it was that when the business person or the commercial landlord looks at the neighborhood association, what is it they see? A lot of times what they see is just a bunch of cranks who are against everything. So, you know, that's not a good view. That's not a good look for the neighborhood. And so the things we've been talking about today, you know, going around, I got an idea from this for the next newsletter, which is a piece about all the new businesses in the Nob Hill district.
Mhm.
And, you know, we get our director or maybe a member who's not a director of the association, and they go around, they say, hey, guess what? We're doing a piece on all the new businesses here in Nob Hill. And I saw you guys are new. You know, can we list you in here? What is it you're going to do? What's your phone number? What's your website? And, you know, you're not asking for a thing. You're actually just offering something free.
Yep.
That's very attractive. So this business I've heard from a lot of you today where you just go around to say hi. Maybe you have a little time at the tap room and you get the word out to the local landlords. Those are the hardest guys to find because you don't know where they are.
Mhm.
The business person is right there in their store.
Yep.
They're very easy to find.
Mhm.
Not so much the commercial landlord, the real estate investor. And those are the guys I would love to link up with more.
Mhm.
Also, that would be a huge one. And for any of you out there trying to do this, Cynthia and others, maybe try and identify the common interests with the commercial property owners.
That's an excellent idea. I like that idea. But that's kind of a, you know, a technique that we try to do when we're trying to help neighbors who are having conflicts, is try to encourage them to find the common ground between them, because they, you know, oftentimes they need to be reminded, hey, you know, we really are on the same side here. So I think that's a really important perspective to remind people of. Melissa, from the business perspective, what you talked about this earlier about, you know, that you know, it's still kind of new and in terms of reaching out to neighborhood associations, but any thoughts as to what Luis or Cynthia or Gary had said, but from the business perspective?
Well, there's definitely going to be disagreements. You know, we have a different business climate here on the west side, and you know, I think, you know, relationships may not have formed just because all of our businesses are on cores, and that's a very busy street. So we don't have good walkability.
Yeah.
So that you know, that's a problem. Whereas, you know, Nob Hill is very friendly into where people are walking, and you can just, you know, visit business to business. It's a little different here on the west side. We don't have that walkability.
But it's good to have this perspective, because like you said, not every neighborhood is going to have businesses along a specific corridor with that walkability. And so I think that's a very good perspective to remind people of. You know, you're going to have different kinds of businesses in different kinds of areas, and just because, you know, on what works in one area may not work for another, but the perspective is still very valuable.
Right. And of course, in terms of development, it's important, you know, a neighborhood association plays a very big part in developing new business. And there, again, there's going to be a lot of disagreements on where to develop. And then again, on the west side, we have these areas like the petroglyphs where we have to preserve and protect those areas. So it's not really that easy to put up a business or to do any type of construction. But then there's, you know, the things where we can come together. I recently, you know, came together with our neighborhood associations on the recent purchase of the pool property, which is, you know, preserving that area of the bosque. So we can come together and join forces and, you know, work together on those types of issues, because it does, you know, have an impact on agriculture. And so it's a lot of, you know, new things that I'm learning, and I'm really grateful and excited to be included in these discussions with our local neighborhood associations, because and I feel like they're also excited because they never really had the interaction with the business community. So it's a great partnership.
Yeah, that's a challenge across the board. I mean, just, you know, I also think part of the challenge for Albuquerque is it's just so spread out. It's so huge, and you know, you may want to make contact with every single neighbor in your association, or every single business in your area or every single resident, and it's just not going to happen. And you want to, you can, work as hard as you can, and you're always going to miss someone. So having these partnerships really increases that ability to reach out to people that you may not otherwise have an opportunity to connect with. So nope, that's an excellent perspective, Melissa. Thank you for
Yeah,
that.
and I will, just working with the neighborhood associations, I've had a couple of people that were really excited for this new organization that I formed, and they have been, the biggest word of mouth, doing the outreach to the businesses that they know and letting them know about the resources that are available to them. So it's been a really great partnership.
Yeah, that's great. Excellent. Well, I don't have any other questions from I don't have any panel questions. I don't have any questions from our participants. Luis, did you want to? Do you want to give us some more of your philosophy?
No, I just wanted to ask Cynthia when Helen's Bakery is going to come back into the fold.
I know.
I have no idea.
That was one of my favorite places.
Okay, what's your next favorite place on that corridor?
Well, wait a minute. So I just thought of something I was going to ask all of you. I'm going to skew this toward all of you now, and I'm going to ask you, what is your favorite local business in your area? Gary?
Frenchish.
Okay. Melissa?
You had to put me on the spot. I have so many.
Sorry.
I don't want to leave anyone out. So, in my area, I would have to say Mariscos.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
my favorite place to go. You know what? I really, if there are any businesses out there, I would love for us to have a local coffee shop. It's been great that we recently got the Dutch Bros and we have Starbucks, but we don't have any local coffee shops over here on this side of town. So maybe you can help me out.
Business opportunity for somebody who's listening. Cynthia?
Yeah, we need one of those. We need one of those too. Steve went out a few years ago. We need a new coffee shop. Well, you know what? I have 4 children, and people ask me, "What's your favorite child?"
And we know parents secretly have favorite children. My mother used to say that all the time.
Always to that question. So, what I will say is that I do appreciate the fact that in our corridor we have some really unique businesses. We have a lot of health and beauty focused businesses, a lot of secondhand stores, and I love secondhand stores. And they're both along San Pedro corridor and the Lomas side of the neighborhood. And so I would say I really do like all of the unique secondhand stores that we have. And I do patronize.
You got to pick one. You can't cop out on the question. You got to pick one.
I want to pick 4 more. Flying Star, La Montanita, Hija Tov, Zinc.
It's hard for me to pick a particular one, but I do want to give a shout out to a couple of our strongest partners that are definitely in the favorite category. And one is Christy Mays Restaurant. They have been extremely strong partners for our neighborhood associations for many years, and stayed strong during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I also want to shout out to Rio Grande Credit Union, because they have also been super strong partners, and they're partnering with us also in our Main Street application. Yep. So
that's awesome.
That's the closest you're going to get me.
Oh, all right. And Louise, your favorite local business?
Are we doing categories? The types
your
of
favorite
business.
Local business?
Nope. They're all my favorite, right?
Yeah,
we've got both old and new, right? But my what happens to be my favorite right now is Define Fitness, because they are re-energizing the Unser crossing corridor, which if you guys have paid any attention, in 2008 it kind of fell by the wayside and hasn't been developed, and so they are getting things re-energized in that area there, and so we're starting to see some more development, which is always a good thing. And so if I'm going to put a favorite, it's that business right now.
Okay, that sounds good to me. Well, this was great. I really enjoyed this. I was really the very good discussion. I have great panelists. This was a lot of fun. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Sandra. I didn't realize that she had her hand up. Sorry, I'm a bad moderator. I apologize. Anyway, I want to thank all of you for taking the time to be part of this today. I know you were all very busy, and this is great. I love connecting people that, you know, maybe previously haven't connected much or at all. And so I really want to thank all of you for your perspectives. And you guys are awesome. I really appreciate it. You guys take care. Thank you so much.
Hold on, one
Okay,
more.
all right.
One more. There's a chat here. I believe it's from Sandra.
No, she had to leave.
Oh, she had to leave. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was a bad moderator this time because I didn't catch her hand being up. So that was completely my fault, and I apologize. Sandra, I'm sorry.
I was getting notes handed to me.
Yeah.
What?
It's important to know.
Oh my gosh. Anyway.
That's how things happen around here.
I'm sure they do. Thank you all very much. Thank you, our attendees, for being part of this. Please email me if you do have any questions. And thank you, my panelists. I really appreciate you taking the time. Have a great rest of your afternoon.
You are very welcome.
Thank you
It
so
was a
much.
pleasure.
Bye-bye.